Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. It's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only BodkinShow. I'm going to repeat that again, folks. I didn't stutter. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. Welcome, everybody. Good evening to another great episode of the Bodkin Show. I am that dude, Bodkins, of course. What a great day of football it was. It is our Week 12 reaction show. My Packers are currently playing right now. Hang it in there with the Eagles. I actually tweeted out when it was 13-0. That this game was over. So kudos for the Packers for hanging on. Just got a huge strip sack or huge fumble return and looking to tie this game up, maybe take the lead. So we'll see what happens here. I don't have my hopes up. If you guys know and have been following me for a while, you know how bad I think we are, but maybe we're going to hang around here with the Eagles. I said if you caught the LTS midday show with me and Ryan Larson, I said that Jalen Hurts was going to rush for 200 yards. Well, damn near he's touchdown. Aaron Jones, I needed that in big way and in my fantasy, so we'll take that. Good touchdown, Rodgers to Jones, and we're all tied up here. That's what I like to see. But if you missed it on our middle of the way show, with Ryan Larson, I said that Jalen Hurts was going to rush for over 200 yards. Well, he had 100 in the first quarter, so there's that. So I was right about that. So we'll see what happens here as the Packers now take a 1-point lead. But we got to talk about all the other stuff today. Mike White, a guy. Ravens are in trouble. Bengals red hot. Ooh, that was a fucking awful kick, and now we're tied. And to break it down with me, my main guy, you guys know who he is, my main man, Craig with a K. Craig, what's up, my man? The Bears, weird quarterback conundrum this today. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be Trevor Siemian, or I thought it was going to be Siemian, then it was Peterman, then it was Siemian. They have no trust in Nate Peterman, and I don't think that, it didn't really matter because the Jets kind of put it to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears were missing some pieces today. It was weird because it was right before kickoff. They said Siemian got hurt in warm-ups and Nathan Peterman was starting. And then I was watching the game, and then the offense came out for the first drive, and it was Trevor Siemian. So I don't know if, Matt Eberflus was trying to do something tricky or what happened with that whole situation. It was somewhat good for me because when I saw the Nate Peterman starting, I went and switched my parlays and took the Jets plus 7.5, which ended up working out for me either way. But, man, the Bears were missing a lot in the secondary. They lost Eddie Jackson midway through the game, so I don't know. I mean, we'll see with the Jets. We'll see.
And we'll get into that game here in a little bit. Before we get into all the games, was there anything that, you were kind of surprised by this week at all, or, anything, your first initial reaction to anything?
I mean, we'll get into the games a little deeper, but there were some games that I was looking forward to, specifically the Bengals-Titans game. I felt like was a really big game this week. And, I mean, I feel like I said, we'll get into the game a little more here in a bit, but I feel like we learned a little bit about the Bengals,
Yeah, I thought was the biggest game of the day, especially in the early slate, the early slate games. I thought that was the one of the bigger games. But let's go ahead.
We'll hop quarterbacks this week, and they all stunk.
You realized why backup quarterbacks are backup quarterbacks, and maybe why the Jets made the move to Mike White. And we'll get into that game here a little bit. Let's go ahead. We'll jump right into it. A lot of games this week. we'll go all the way back to Thursday. The Bills Lions was the appetizer to the Thursday game, and boy, Craig, did it deliver. This was a heck of a game. We both were on Detroit and to cover here. And you look at the game, Josh Allen, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception. 10 carries for 78 yards rushing and a touchdown. Singletary, 14 carries, 72 yards. Isaiah McKenzie, 6 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 8 for 77 and tutter. The Lions played the Bills tough, but at the end of the day, the Bills got a much-needed win on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was kind of what I thought. I mean, the Bills on paper they're still winning games, but the Bills just haven't looked like what they did early on in the season. I felt like the Bills have just kind of got something funky going on. Josh Allen has been turning the ball over. I guess that's the big thing. Man, the Lions, I just felt like had a better shot here. It was bad clock management down the stretch. They still ended up, being able to tie the game there and taking most of the clock. But I felt like, Detroit, as Detroit does, they kind of lost this one there at the end.
Von Miller got hurt as well, so it's kind of serious, but not as serious as expected. Jared Goff, to kind of finish out the stat line, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, 18 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. It seems to me like what's going on there with that backfield? He's getting more of the carries than Swift is here. Are they now Jamal's is that Jamal's backfield, or Swift still kind of banged up and that's, they're just kind of resting him?
So I don't know. I mean, that's a question that me personally has had because I have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in fantasy. It seemed like, DeAndre Swift was hurt, so Jamal Williams was kind of the guy. But ever since DeAndre Swift has been back, they haven't just handed him over a workload. Even Justin Jackson has been, I think it was the week before last, Justin Jackson had more snaps than DeAndre Swift. So, I mean, I don't know. Jamal Williams definitely has been the red zone back. That has been that way, it seems, since week 1. So DeAndre Swift, I don't know if, Dan Campbell doesn't trust DeAndre Swift with the workload, if they just don't think his body can handle it because he's been banged up with injuries the last 2 years. So, I mean, I don't know. The Lions backfield, honestly, right now, it's a big question mark, and it's hurting me in fantasy football.
Yeah, it seems to be hurting a lot of people. One guy that's not hurting a lot of people is Amon St. Brown. 9 receptions, 122 yards, 1 touchdown. DJ Chark added a touchdown as well. They look to be getting back the Jameson Williams kid from Alabama that they drafted. Do you think that's going to cut into kind of St. Brown, or you think St. Brown's got that kind of locked up and then Williams will just kind of add more to that offense?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it's going to cut into St. Brown because preseason I was somewhat down on St. Brown because I thought that DJ Chark was going to eat into that workload from what we saw, in the second half of last year. And that hasn't been the case when St. Brown is healthy, man. I mean, he just seems to be the guy getting the targets there. And I don't think that that's going to change.
Yeah, let's get into the next game here. The Giants, I mean, just able to squeak out the cover, Craig, a late touchdown after a missed field goal by the Cowboys. The Giants do cover the 10. Cowboys win, though, 28-20. This was the most watched game I read like in Thanksgiving history or something like that. The most viewed game. So how about that? Cowboys, Giants. Daniel Jones, 21-35, 228 yards, 1 touchdown. Dak Prescott, 20-30, 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quiet day for Saquon, 39 yards. Zeke had a huge day, 16 carries, 92 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 6 receptions and 106 yards. Are people figuring out the Giants, Craig, here? I mean, this is the second loss in a row for the Giants. Are they coming back down to earth after that hot start?
Yeah, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, man. I was going to say the Giants are kind of coming back down to earth. I think a couple weeks ago, I kind of called it. I said you can only stay so good for so long with what they're working with. When Daniel Jones is the quarterback and the wide receivers that they're throwing to, if teams are able to shut Saquon down, whenever the Giants play, good defensive teams, I feel like you're going to see them struggle. I feel like on paper and on the football field, Dallas is the better team. I took the Giants to cover because I thought that game would be within 10 points, but Dallas is the better team. And I think, like you said, the Giants are just coming back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, they just don't have enough talent, man. That's the Giants' problem. They just don't have enough talent on their team to compete, with some of these upper echelon teams. Where do you rank Dallas in the KPR, the Kroger power rankings in the NFC? Are they number 1 or 2 or 3? What's your rankings here for Dallas? Because they put it on Minnesota. They look like really one of the better, to me, one of the top 1 or 2 teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I think right now I'd have them at 2 behind Philly. There's an argument. Right there, the Vikings are in the talks, but man, Dallas just thumped Minnesota on their home turf. So it's hard for me to put the Vikings ahead of Dallas. So right now in the NFC, I'd have Philly and then Dallas in the overall rank.
Yeah, if you go head to head, Minnesota lost both to Philly and Dallas, so that's you got to put Minnesota down there, and then I guess remember when they played the Eagles, that was Cooper Rush's starting, so they haven't played them with Dak, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how they play that going forward, and they're only a game behind the Eagles, so they got one more game to kind of match up there.
Yeah, and Philly's in a fight right now with Green Bay. I know you're a Packers guy, you're probably watching it, but it seems like Green Bay finally remembered that A.J. Dillon played on the team.
Yeah, I literally said that again. That's something I brought up they must have listened to my show, me and Ryan's show this afternoon, because I said, where the hell has A.J. Dillon been? He's been on a milk carton because we can't find him. And we couldn't figure out, we were talking, whether it was play calling, what the deal was, because you got to give Jones and Dillon. I feel like the best success for Green Bay is giving Jones and Dillon each 15 carries a game, and limiting as Aaron Rodgers gets sacked. Exactly what I'm trying to say. Run the damn ball. We're running it well with both Jones and Dillon, and that's my point exactly. Both those guys need 15 carries a game to win.
Yeah, it seems like A.J. Dillon's having some success running the football right now. So when you got a guy that size, you feed him. It only gets better as the game goes on.
Yeah, instead we like to throw the ball and get sacked. Let's move on to the late game on Thursday night. Speaking of Minnesota, we brought them up. We kind of said that they're the 3rd best team in the NFC. Patriots gave them everything that they could handle. Mac Jones, 28 of 39, 382 yards, 2 touchdowns. Primetime Kirk Cousins showed up in this one, 30 for 37, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook, 22 carries for only 42 yards. Justin Jefferson absolutely just scorched them. 9 receptions, 139 yards, 1 touchdown. Shout out to Bobby G. He had that. He said, Justin Jefferson's going to have a Randy Moss type Thanksgiving Day. And by God, Craig, he did.
Yeah, man. Kudos to Minnesota to bounce back from the previous showing. The Patriots have had some struggles on offense, but the Patriots have not been a slouch. They have their off weeks, and sometimes they'll lose to teams that maybe they shouldn't, but they're definitely not an easy out. I had the Patriots covering in this game. And kudos to Kirk Cousins, man. I'm not going to say that Kirk has silenced all the primetime Kirk doubters, but he got to put the shush up for a minute because he did have himself a game. He did prove that he's not going to stink it up every single time. I don't believe that he's going to play like that every single time he's on primetime either. But that's a good sign for Minnesota. I feel like it's a quality opponent. And after the showing that they had against Dallas, it was a good bounce back for them.
Yeah, that was a game that, and the type of performance that you needed to see from Kirk Cousins on a big night against a Bill Belichick, right? Against the Bill Belichick defense, a guy that's known to give quarterbacks fits and take away your best asset. They did take away the running game, but they could not stop Justin Jefferson. Absolutely killed it. Kirk Cousins played well. Didn't commit so many turnovers. They protected him. And they made right plays. I think what set that Dallas game up, I mean, the first drive of the game, Micah Parsons strip sack, fumble, and it was just kind of a snowball effect right after that. They could never recover, it felt like, against, they didn't have that time. They had all the momentum in that game against New England on Thursday. The huge bounce back game. I think that's the type of game, like you said, that you needed to see from Kirk Cousins. I don't think anybody would have been surprised if he goes out there, throws 3 interceptions on Thursday night, and they lose that game. It would have got real loud after that.
Right. And I mean, that's the kick return was huge in that game. That was a big, turning point or a big momentum kind of swing. But the thing is like Kirk just didn't make the mistakes, and especially against the Bill Belichick defense, that's what I was expecting, especially late in the game. You expect Kirk Cousins to make just a bad mistake, and he didn't. So, I mean, hats off to Cousins.
Yeah, let's get into today's game. Starting today's games, not much to talk about in this game. The Texans make the quarterback switch, but it doesn't matter. They did cover, though. I think the spread wasn't they covered the spread, though. I believe it was high, but this was made it a 15-point game. Kyle Allen, 1 touchdown, but Tua, 290 yards, 1 touchdown. Jeff Wilson, 13 for 39 and a touchdown. Jalen Waddle led the way receiving wise, 5 receptions for 85 yards. You look at, they kept Damon Pierce, nothing going, but Damon Pierce there. And I was looking at Tyreek Hill, 6 for 85 yards. Craig, not much to talk about here other than, the Dolphins continue to be an absolute wagon.
Yeah, and I mean, the Dolphins kind of seem to take the foot off the pedal late in the game because they were, smoking them in the first half. And I think Tyreek got hurt in this game, maybe. But man, I mean, the Texans made the quarterback change. All they have is Dameon Pierce. So if you can just stop Dameon Pierce and get a big lead on him and make him throw the ball, I mean, and I think the spread on that game was 14. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I think that one was 14 and Kansas City was 15. I think those
Kansas
are the
City was 15. Yeah, so Texans covered the 14-point spread. Barely.
No, Miami did because it was 15.
Miami. It was 15. Okay, you're right. Yeah. So the Miami still covers. Close one, but they cover. I mean, where do you rank Miami? How far of a run can Miami go? Because I'm thinking AFC Championship game. Possibly. Do they look like a Super Bowl contender to you? Because that offense, I mean, they're a track meet. They're a track team.
Healthy. I mean, you can't say that they aren't, man. I mean, I guess the big question is, are they good enough to beat the Chiefs? And if they're not good enough to beat the Chiefs, is somebody good enough to beat the Chiefs, and then they're going to beat them? And I mean, I feel like you have to at least say, yeah, man, Miami. I feel like we just say it every week, and that's because it's just continuing to be true. They haven't lost when Tua starts and finishes a game. And I mean,
did they play the Chiefs? Or they play the Chiefs?
Did they play the Chiefs? They played the Chiefs when Tua was out.
Let me look. I thought they played the Chiefs or do play the Chiefs.
But I mean, that's the question, right? If you can beat the Chiefs, you can win the AFC, I guess.
Well, you got to beat the Bill. I mean, the Bills are there as well. I mean, they beat the Bills and got to play them again.
But I mean, the Bills got to get past their kryptonite, which is the Chiefs. The Bengals got past the Chiefs. That's how they made it to the Super Bowl last year. I feel like the road in the AFC, no matter what, ultimately somebody's got to beat the Chiefs.
No, they haven't played. They haven't played the Chiefs, and they don't play the Chiefs. I thought they did. Looks like so the Dolphins' upcoming games. Yeah, they're 8-3. They go to San Francisco. So McDaniel against his former team. They then they stay out on the West.
That's a good game.
Yeah. Stay out on the West Coast and play the Chargers. Their next 3 games are all road games. And man, do they fly. So they fly across the country to take on the 49ers. Then they fly across the country again to take on the Chargers. Then they play the Bills. So you went from then that's clear across back the other way in the cross country. Then you're home to the Packers, and then you on the road to the Patriots and home to the Jets the last week of the season.
So I mean, I feel like that right there is going to be everything you need to know about the Dolphins. I feel like how they run this stretch, man, it's not an easy one, especially traveling twice to California teams, both quality football teams, and then going and playing at Buffalo. I mean, who knows what Green Bay is going to be like, but I mean, I feel like Green Bay is not an easy out.
49ers probably one of the hottest teams in the league right now, to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I said that game coming up is big, man. Miami and the 49ers, that's potential Super Bowl talk. I mean, those are 2 of the hottest teams in their conference right now.
And then you look at the Chargers. Who knows what Charger team shows up? The Bills, obviously, we know what they can do. You should be able to beat the Packers and the Patriots. And then you got the Jets. You know, those are 3 teams that you should win, but I mean, you could lose. You could easily lose those. All 3 of those, you know, the Jets and the Patriots are looking to try to make the playoffs. Packers are too. At whoever you talk to, I will say no. I'll say that they're not making the playoffs. And then, you know, so they got a tough schedule coming ahead. Can they win? Can they win the AFC East? Do you think they can? This is their division to lose, or are you still taking the Bills right now?
Man, I have more belief in the Dolphins every week, and it's just because the way the Dolphins look and the way that the Bills look, man. I mean, I think it's crazy to say that the Dolphins can't win the division. If I got to pick it right now, I'm still going to take the Bills to win the division, though. I mean, I'm going to ride with the team that I picked until they're out of it. But I mean, I think it's crazy to think that Miami couldn't win the division. They look as good as anybody.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I still, because I picked the Bills at the beginning of the year, I still got to ride with them. But right now, man, the Dolphins look really good, and they're beating teams like that they should beat and blow out. You know what I mean? Like, we both thought the Lions that spread was too high, but the Bills probably still should have beat them by more than a point. The Dolphins, and I understand it's a wacky schedule for the Bills as well, so you take that into place, but the Dolphins aren't letting teams play it around. They're putting your kind of throat, you know, to you. They're not playing around. I mean, they put Skylar Thompson in the 4th there for a little bit. Tua kind of took a weird fall at one point, but that team, they're putting their throats down on you and snapping it.
Yeah, man, that weird fall, I thought Tua was like broken for a second, man. It looked way worse than I guess it was.
Yeah, let's get into, like we said, the possibly the early Sunday slate game. I had a lot of huge playoff implications. The Bengals roll into Tennessee. They steal one. They get a late touchdown, and then they're driving. Titans hold them after the field goal, and then they hold them to a field goal. It's a 7-point. It would have been a 7-point game, and instead on the field goal is a penalty on the Titans. The Bengals hold the ball. It gets a first down, and they just kind of kneel it out. Bengals win. Joey Burrow, 22 of 35 or 37, 270 yards, 1 touchdown. Tannehill, 291 yards. The Bengals defense They stopped Derrick Henry, only 17 carries for 38 yards. Samaje Perine, 15 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 7 receptions, 114 yards, and 1 touchdown. Craig, the Bengals are probably, I think, I said the 49ers, but the Bengals is like their 4th win in a row here. This is exactly where they were last year. They're playing their best ball late. That offensive line's gotten better. T. Higgins is kind of blown up without Chase. And more importantly, Joe Burrow has found a safety net in Hayden Hurst. I feel like that's going to be the most underrated signing of the offseason is Hayden Hurst to Cincinnati, because when he does get in trouble, he's able to dump it down there to Hayden Hurst, and he's catching the ball and doing a little bit of work here and there, and making the shorter on, instead of first or second and 15 from a sack, it's now 2nd and 5 because he's able to find Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, man, I said it earlier, man. This was kind of the game, that I had my eye on this week. And for the Bengals to be able to win, man, I mean, I know there was some controversy there at the end with that, weird penalty, the roughing the center, whatever the heck it was. But, man, the Bengals are still without Chase. They were without Joe Mixon. And Joe Burrow is still getting it done. And I watched a little bit of you guys this morning, and you had that Titans fan on, and he kind of hit the nail on the head and said that the coach and the players are all saying that this ain't a revenge game, but there's 60,000 people there that think differently. And for the Bengals to be able to go into that atmosphere and, still be able to come out with a win against one of the hotter, we're talking about hot teams in the NFL, man. The Titans have quietly been one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They're like 7-1 in their last 8 or something coming into this one. So
yeah, they went 0-2, and this was their 4th loss to this. The only loss they had since they were 0-2 was to the Chiefs.
Yeah. So, they've been one of the hot teams, and holding Derrick Henry is huge. You mentioned the stat line, holding him in the rushing category. He did have that one screenplay that he busted loose that ended up resulting in the touchdown. But, everybody knows that the Titans are going to throw Derrick Henry down your throat. The thing is, nobody can stop it. So whenever you can have a game like this and you're able to stop it and be able to go on the road, and like I said, in that kind of atmosphere and win, to me, that's a huge game for the Bengals. And it's teams in the AFC don't want to see that Bengals team, man, because that Bengals team is some dogs that can play with anybody.
They are, and when you got Joey Burrow and their offensive weapons, they can hang points with anybody. And I said this on the afternoon show too. Their defense is very underrated. Hendricks and Hubbard are 2 of the most underrated pass rushers in the league as well. I'm obviously, I have a huge crush on Joe Burrow. I'm very high on him, but I really like the rest of the Bengals team as well. I feel like they get no respect, and maybe that's because it's 40 years or so. Besides the anomaly of last year of them being bad, but by God, this team can take it. And now they're tied. We'll talk a little bit about the Ravens here in just a minute, but they're tied with the Ravens for first place. Can the Bengals overtake them? Because I absolutely think they can, because I think they're on the ascending and maybe the Ravens are on the descending.
Yeah, man. I 100% agree with you. And, unfortunately for me, this is another one of those situations, just like we talked about. But this one I feel a lot less comfortable about, but I'm still going to ride with the Ravens because I took them not only to win the division, but to go to the dang Super Bowl out of the AFC. I feel more and more uncomfortable with it the further the season goes and the more I watch the Ravens play. And like I said, man, this game with the Titans, as hot as the Titans had been, and I felt like the Titans kind of had this one circled because the Bengals are the ones that beat them in the playoffs. And for the Bengals to win this game, man, I'm believing more and more in the Bengals. Like I said, man, we can talk about the Bills and the Chiefs and the Dolphins and everybody else, but none of them teams want the Bengals to come to town, man. Not whenever they're rolling.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they're a team that's proven, right? They made it to the Super Bowl last year, and they're one play away really from, being the Super Bowl champs, like that's just kind of what it comes down to. Early on the season, you said that Super Bowl hangover is real. Well, they've shooken that off and they're playing their best ball. They started off slow last year and got hot right about this time. and, carried that all the way into the playoffs. They're a scary team. I think this was a must. They needed this win more than the Titans did. The Titans can still win their division very easily. The Bengals are trying to compete to get into win their own division and stay in this, wild card chase as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, the Bengals look about as good as anybody in the AFC right now. I mean, they definitely look like the best team in that division. With the eye test, watching all 4 of those teams play football, the Bengals look like the team. And maybe that smack in the mouth that they got from the Browns was kind of what they needed, man, because it's like ever since that game, man, they've just stood back up and all of a sudden became the Bengals that were making that playoff run.
1,000%. Italy Jets just saying, hey guys, what's up, my man? Big win for the Jets. You called it. We were talking this morning about how Mike White was playing and how he was going to do, and we'll get into that game a little bit. I just wanted to stay right here with the because we were talking about the Ravens. Jackson, this was a back and forth. The Ravens defense, 14 point. They had a huge double-digit lead, 14 points in the fourth. Again, Craig, they blow it. Back and forth game. But the bottom line is Trevor Lawrence leads the team down, score a heck of a catch by was it Zay Jones? I don't know who caught the game winner. I think it was Zay Jones. It might have been, or it was
Marvin Jones caught the touchdown.
Who was it?
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones caught the game winner on a hell of a catch, toe tap touchdown. And then Craig, what was delivered to me right after the game was, for some reason, it was misread, but Doug Peterson's nuts. This is Doug Peterson's nuts because he goes for 2, wins the game, and delivers me as one of his nuts because that's how big he was as they go for 2 to win it. They beat the Ravens 28-27. An incredible comeback win. This was, to me, the best Trevor Lawrence has looked since he played Alabama in the national title game.
Yeah, man, and I mean, he didn't look very good for almost the first half, but once he got rolling, he did look good. And like you said, man, what is it with the Ravens? Like I said, this is my Super Bowl pick. I'm still trying to ride with them, man, but they just seem to be able to get a lead and then let teams back in. And like you said, Peterson, man, with the cojones to go for 2, to me, I mean, it was kind of giving the Ravens their own medicine, right? Like going for 2 when you're at home. Like at home, you'll play for overtime, and you'll take overtime. You go for 2 on the road. The Ravens are kind of the team that goes for 2 at home with the game on the line. So Jacksonville, to kind of give them a taste of their own medicine, man, I liked it. And the fact that they got it, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm worried about the Ravens. The AFC is tough, and the Ravens are just, I don't know. I'm worried about them.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as this really for Jacksonville. Like, why not go for 2? What do you got to lose? What's another loss to your record? A whole lot of nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you're not making the playoffs whether you know what I mean? If you lose, you're not making the playoffs regardless. Probably you got a chance to maybe win that division because the Titans did lose today, so they're kind of hanging around. But I just think they had nothing, a whole lot to lose, like everything to kind of gain. Because this is a win you can hang your hat on going forward. You had all the momentum. Why try? You couldn't stop Baltimore in the second half. I mean, there's like 30 points there. I felt like total points between both teams in the fourth. And why not go for it? You had everything to play for it, and you got it done.
Yeah, Baltimore, man. I mean, just you're getting tore up by Zay Jones and Marvin Jones. I don't know. They let everybody back into games. Like I said, man, the AFC is tough. You can't stop Zay Jones and Marvin Jones. Like, what are you gonna do with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? And I don't know. I worry about Baltimore, man. Early on, I just thought this was the Lamar Jackson tour for the contract. I mean, I thought this was going to be kind of like what we saw with Aaron Judge in baseball. I thought Lamar was going to do that this year, just have a huge MVP type year on a contract year. But man, the Ravens got real problems, I think, and I'm worried about them as my Super Bowl pick for sure.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
I feel about as confident in them as you do in the Colts right now.
Yeah, I feel less confident in that, my friend. I mean, who would have thought the Ravens defense gives up 18 points in the fourth quarter to Jacksonville? This is not, I mean, the Ravens having a bad defense, that's like new, right? Like, I mean, we've seen different variations of a Ravens defense, but it's always been solid and it's always been good. This might be the worst Ravens defense in the history of Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and the huge issue is in the fourth quarter, man, and that's when you close games out. That's what the Ravens do, right? Their defense, if their offense can score points, their defense closes games out. That's the Baltimore Ravens we've all known for decades, it seems like. So it's just weird when the Ravens are up by 14 in the fourth quarter, you're against the freaking Jaguars, like your brain is accustomed to shutting that game off. It's over. And I don't know what the exact stats are, man, but the Ravens defense, fourth quarter points, they got to be tops of the league, giving up points in the fourth quarter.
This is the third time this year they have 4 losses, and 3 of those 4 losses, they had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that can't happen.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, 254 yards, 1 touchdown. Trevor Lawrence, like I said, I thought this was the best game he played all season. 29-37, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns. ETN got hurt in that game. Jermichael Hasty, 12 carries for 28 yards. Zay Jones, 11 receptions for 145 yards. Led the way there in receiving for Jacksonville. Jacksonville moves to 4-7. They do have a outside chance of making the playoffs or winning that division, but I think we're both still on Tennessee to win that thing, right, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the Jaguars can have hope to maybe pass the Colts, maybe get a second place finish. But I definitely got Tennessee still winning that division.
Let's get into the next game. Let's get into we'll go. We talked that one. We'll go here to the not much to talk about here, but Sam Darnold starts for the Panthers, and the Panthers get a win over the lousy Broncos, and the Panthers still hanging around. Got a chance to win their division at the lowly 4-8. And they beat the lowly 3-8 Broncos. Craig, I feel like we ask this every week. What is with the Broncos? I mean, I feel like Hackett's going to be the sacrificial lamb, but today we see his own teammates yelling at Russ Wilson. Is this a Russ thing? Is it a Hackett thing? What is it?
It's trash. Whatever thing it is, man, it's kind of just an everything. It seems like, I think you nailed it, man. Hackett's going to be the sacrificial lamb. He's going to be a one and done. I don't see how that's not going to happen. Especially, I mean, in games like this, man, is everything that's going on in Carolina. They're on their third quarterback, second head coach, and you still lose by 13 to the damn Panthers. I mean, there's problems right now in Denver for sure. And like you said, man, now the team is showing their frustrations with Russ. And I feel like, I mean, we'll get into the Bears, Jets and stuff here in a little bit, but I've been kind of saying it with Zach Wilson, man, is like, you can't lose the locker room, man. Once you lose the locker room and you lose your teammates, I just don't know that you ever really get it back. You got to go find a new locker room. And Russ can't lose the locker room, right? I mean, shoot, they've got him there for what? I don't know. All I know is all the struggles that the Bears have. I still am just grateful that the football gods let Carroll shut down whatever Ryan Pace was trying to throw at him for Russ, because there was a lot of rumors at one time that he was coming to Chicago when we were giving up like the next 4 first-round picks for him, and Pete Carroll shut it down. Thank God.
Yeah, somebody, it was actually Italy Jet said this morning show, he's like, it was the first time that he was thankful, it looks like, because they were talking about him going to the Jets, or maybe it was the Giants, I can't remember, but somebody said, it's the first time their inept play, actually was for good, because Russ didn't want to go there. Instead, he goes to Denver, and it's been bad. He's been bad. They've been bad. That team is bad. And kudos, I want to give some credit to Wilkes, the coach of Carolina, because they lose their best player in CMC. They're on their third different quarterback. And here they are playing hard and still winning games. And honestly, still got a chance to win this division, because we'll talk about the Bucks here in just a minute. But I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of anything of notoriety in this game. But other than DJ Moore, 4 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Deontay Foreman continues to impress, 24 carries, 130 yards. But kudos to Wilkes and the Panthers here for continuing to play hard and tough. And he's probably, to me, are you going to give Wilkes the job going forward? Do you think they take the interim title off of him?
I mean, it's possible, man. Obviously, they'll see how they finish, man. But I mean, the team seems to be responding. You never know in the NFL. You never know what teams are going to do. Right now, man, with Sam Darnold at quarterback, I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but not so crazy when you know everybody that's there. But I mean, that he might be the best quarterback there. He might be the guy that should have been starting from day one. I mean, so they might be better head coach, better quarterback. I mean, new mojo in the room. They might be a better team than what they were. I don't know. I know the Broncos freaking stink. So the Panthers probably still stink too. I mean, to be honest, but
they do. But I mean, at least the Broncos, I don't care what anybody says, they're the most disappointing team. Kudos to the Seahawks, man, because that pick could be a 1-2. What they traded for Russ, they could have a top 2 or 3 pick in the league, and they'll still have theirs, and that'll be in the back end, and we'll talk about them in just a little bit as well. But I mean, that win looks like an absolute win and steal for the Seahawks in that trade.
Man, I was thinking about it earlier. It's crazy to think how many people were picking the entire AFC West to make the playoffs. And I mean, if the season ended today, only one team's coming out of that division. It's Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody else is sitting at home.
Yes. Speaking of sitting at home, the Bucks should have stayed at home on their bye week, Craig. This team I thought was going. I had them in one of my locks, like it's kind of one of my lock teams. And they absolutely stink. Tom Brady looks old to me. He looks bad. I watched the tail end of that game, and there was just a throw. Mike Evans one-on-one on the outside. I've seen Tom Brady hit that throw 100 times in my life plus. It needed to be a perfect throw, and it wasn't a perfect throw. It was 3 feet away from Mike Evans. The ball goes incomplete. And then then we get into the overtime. The Bucks have the ball. Their worst gets hurt. Their left tackle gets hurt. And then they bring on a guy fresh off, and they don't help chip Myles Garrett. And guess what? 80-year-old Tom Brady gets sacked because he can't run from nobody. Game over. Browns get it. They huge wide open pass to Amari Cooper. 2 plays later, Nick Chubb's in the end zone. Browns win 23-17. Craig, the Bucks can't score 20 points a game. And is Tom Brady trying to be like the first quarterback on a losing team to win the Super Bowl? Is that the whole plan here? Because they stink right now, and they have no excuses on why they stink, because you look at their weapons. Give me Mike Evans, give Aaron Rodgers Mike Evans, and see what happens. Julio Jones and Russell Gage and Chris Godwin, like they have all the weapons, but they can't score for nothing.
Yeah, man. I mean, Brady's old, right? But I feel like this is kind of new territory for Brady, even young Brady, man. Brady always had protection and didn't need the greatest weapons. Now he's got no protection and all the weapons, and it's just a different animal. Tom Brady is old, and it's just crazy to think, man, in a game against the Cleveland Browns, even if it's going to overtime, if Tom Brady's getting the ball, it's game over, right? I mean, Bucks win. You're giving Tom Brady the ball in overtime. That means the game is over. That's how it always has been. So
he had the ball not once but twice, Craig.
Right. And so I just feel like I mean, Father Time's undefeated, right? Like I guess we're here, man. I mean, and I said it a couple weeks ago, the way they pulled out that Rams game, that's like a turning point. That the Bucks from here could get it rolling. Because I mean, shoot, like you said, look at this team, all the weapons. Look at the defense, man. Look at the defensive line. I mean, they've got arguably the best run defense in football. But man, they just can't score points. They can't win games. They just don't look good, man. Even against bad teams, they don't look good.
Yeah, they were 5-6 on the season. Browns moved to 4-7. I mean, really, the Bucks should still win this division, but it's like they just want everybody to keep giving teams hope. Atlanta is right there as well. I mean, I'm looking at I'm going to pull up the standings here real quick in this NFC crappy South, the absolute worst division in football. Yeah, Atlanta is 5-7. Tampa Bay is 5-6. Carolina's 4-8. New Orleans is 4-8. So really, those two teams, even the last two teams at 4-8, are only 2 games back in this division and still have a chance. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean that's terrible, right? And like you said, if you're going to give me all those stats about how terrible it is, I'm still taking Tom Brady to come out of that division.
Yeah, Tom Brady did go 29 of 43, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brissett, 23 of 37 for 210s at his last start and a touchdown. Nick Chubb had been struggling up to this game, Craig, and I mean, broke out in a huge way. 26 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Amari Cooper, 7 for 94. Chris Godwin, 12 for 110 and 1 touchdown. Kudos to Jacoby Brissett, but now it's Massage Watson time starting next week.
Right, man. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Watson. I mean, Nick Chubb's the heartbeat of Cleveland, of the Browns, right? I mean, if Nick Chubb goes, then they've got a chance almost every game. But these last couple weeks, Nick Chubb hasn't been going, and they haven't looked good at all. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson, man. This guy hasn't played meaningful football in damn near 2 years. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We'll see. That'll be next week's game as he goes back to Houston for that game. Let me ask you about the Bucs struggles. Who do you put the blame on? Because I know they got rid of BA retired. But they still got the same offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich. They do have a new coach, but it's the same coach that's been there. They've all been there. This is the same kind of team that they've had for the last 3 years. Who are you putting the blame on for the Bucs struggles?
Bruce knew something, right? I mean, BA popped smoke real quick, and because he knew that ship was sinking. I don't know, man. In these situations in the NFL, I feel like Todd Bowles is the guy, right? Like Todd Bowles ends up getting the axe, but who knows, man? I mean,
because the defense has been playing. Defense has been playing well.
Maybe they keep him around because this has got to be it for Brady, right? He's not come back next year if they just stink it up this year. Surely not. So I feel like you just
got no family to go back home to.
I guess to me, that's the change. I guess that's the big change that you make is at quarterback next season. But shit, I don't know the way that this is all working out. It's still 5 years from now. We're going to be watching the 30 for 30 about how Brady went through a divorce and was under 500 and ended up sneaking in the playoffs, running the table, winning the Super Bowl. It's not out of the question yet, So, I don't know. Just a lot of times in the NFL, man, head coaches, their heads roll first.
Ryan kind of said it on the afternoon show. He's like, we all want to say that it's over for Brady, but we all can't say it out loud because we still think he'll sneak in and win the Super Bowl, just like you said, Craig.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady ain't out of it until Tom Brady's out of it. We've seen the Tom Brady show for over 20 years.
We have, but eventually the show's got to get canceled, and this might be, you know how it is. The final season in every great show, it's usually their worst season. So this kind of looks
That's very
like it.
true. It usually does stink of it, but
We'll see if it can have a good send off. We'll only find out in a few weeks. I still think everything's right there in front of them. They could still very easily win that division and keep it going. Greg, we've been talking about it since the break, since the start of the show. The Bears, Jets. We talked a little bit about the whole weird quarterback thing with the Bears. No Fields, right situation, sit him down. There's no need to get him banged up and play hurt. But the Jets kind of took it to your boys, 31-10. Mike White, 28 of 228 yards, 222 of 28 for 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. I asked earlier, I said, when was the last time Zach Wilson put that stat line up? It had to have been high school or maybe one game in BYU. But I mean, Mike White, this was the perfect game to show why they went to him. Huge game. Garrett Wilson, 5 receptions, 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. They absolutely looked like a legitimate offense and not a team that's just, we're going to try to keep it low scoring and hope our defense can make a stop or two and win it ugly. The Jets offenses look like arrived, and I mean, it seemed like Mike White is the guy. Is Mike White the guy?
man, I don't know if Mike White is the guy. I said it a little bit just when we were getting the ball rolling, but man, the Bears had the majority of their secondary out today. The thing that surprised me was this game was, I mean, just crummy weather. It was raining. It was the type of game where the Jets were just going to run the football, right? And they were going to win like 19-13, and everybody was going to run the ball like 40, 45 times. But they just let Mike White go out there and sling it in the rain. And, I mean, in the bad conditions still, I mean, he looks better than Wilson has yet this season. And the Bears defense isn't good already. They were without Gordon, without Brisker. Eddie Jackson got hurt. So the Jets weren't going against a top-tier defense out there, but you got to play. I mean, they're NFL players, and Mike White made it happen today. Bob Saleh's been sitting here saying, that Wilson, I don't know if this like some kind of timeout and that he is going to start again and this and that. But, man, I just feel like this is the beginning of the end. I think I sent it in on one of your early shows today. Like, to me, this is just the beginning of the end. These things never end well. So I don't know if Mike White's the guy, but Mike White might be the guy for now. I mean, I feel like, especially if you look like that and you win games, I mean, why wouldn't he be the guy? I feel like this whole situation is weird with Zach, and I just feel like those things don't ever end well. I feel like Zach's on his way out.
Yeah, I kind of contribute to it as what the guy we're going to talk about and team we're going to talk about is Taylor Heineke, right? Heineke, the Commanders have rallied around them. I think that team rallies around Mike White. They went to Bob Saleh and said, get this kid out of here. We feel like we can win with Mike White, and that's what they're doing. Mike has went from the 3rd string to the starter, so obviously he's showing people something in practice. I think the players believe in him and are rallying around him because they have a playoff defense. Now, can the offense do enough to keep them in games and win them games? Going down the stretch to get into the playoffs.
And the play calling has got to believe in him more, right? I mean, that's kind of like what I was saying. The fact that they just let him go out there and sling the ball in a bad weather game. I mean, that's got to say something, right? I mean, I feel like if Zach Wilson was out there, like I said, it would have been 19-13. Jets maybe even score a defensive touchdown in there somewhere in just an ugly game. But instead, man, I mean, which was smart because they ultimately made Trevor Siemian have to go beat him, and that's just not going to happen, especially against that Jets defense. But the fact that they let Mike White go out there and sling it, I feel like there's more trust there than what we've seen in Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney he's out for the year. He got hurt in that game. So one less offensive weapon. What's your take on Fields? I know it's kind of seemed like a game time decision, but I think they should just sit him next week as well. There's no real need for him to play until he's 100% healthy?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, honestly, I mean, with guys banged up, Gordon, Brisker, Fields, all these young guys, man, just make sure they're ready and healthy week 1 next year. I mean, even if Justin Fields doesn't play another snap this season, I'm not going to be heartbroken because honestly, I feel like I saw enough out of him this season to believe in the kid moving forward. And I feel like that was the big question mark moving into the season was like, is Justin Fields a real quarterback? Is Justin Fields a quarterback we can build around? And that was something we needed to find out this year. And I feel like he kind of answered that already. So at this point, man, just keep the kid healthy and make sure he's here week 1 next year when we hopefully have got some better pieces around him and a little more hope in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. If he doesn't play, I wouldn't be, too upset just because I think that, I want to see the kid healthy. I've told you I really like the kid, even though if he is a Bear, but he's fun to watch, man, and I hope to be able to watch him for a while. So let's not go out and get him killed. I don't want him to be RG3, like where he gets killed because they run him into the ground or they play him hurt and then he's just never the same. I hope that he can come back healthy and there's no need to rush him back.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Bears were, trying to be tricky or whatnot, but I just feel like, I mean, everybody knew there's no way that kid's playing this week, right? They kept on saying, oh well, we're gonna try him out before kickoff, and if he's 100%, he'll go. Well, everybody knows he's not gonna be 100%. I mean, he even said he dislocated some stuff in his shoulder. So I mean, just let him sit for a few weeks, if
Yeah,
not for the rest of the season,
yeah, no real reason to play him. Let's get
And
into
we're building for the draft anyway. Just I mean, tank the draft picks. I mean,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Let's get into the guy I was just mentioning. Their football teams playing a lot better than their revealing statues. If you haven't seen it, just Google Sean Taylor statue, and I use statue as a loose term. But the Commanders, I might have said Redskins. Sorry, the Commanders win 19-13. Taylor Heineke, 14 to 23, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson Jr. had himself a day, 18 carries for 105. Mariota, 174 and a touchdown for them, for the Falcons. Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions for 48 yards. But more importantly, Commanders win an ugly one here, 19-13. They continue to ride this out. They're 2 games above 500, and they're in the thick of things in this NFC playoff race.
yeah, man. I mean, talk about a turnaround, right? The Commanders have quietly just been, a team that's, season ends today. They're in the playoffs, and to me, this was kind of a big game, very quietly in the NFC because Atlanta's right there in the playoffs too. I mean, if they win this game, then
they're in first place.
Right, they've got a lead in the division down there. So this, to me, this is a big game for them. Both these teams, this is in the wheelhouse, man. Both these teams want to win ugly. I feel like that's just kind of where they want to keep this game. And ultimately, man, Mariota threw the interception there in the end zone that really cost the Falcons. Kudos to the Commanders, man. I mean, if they can get Brian Robinson running the football and Taylor Heineke throwing, touchdowns and not interceptions, man, they're going to be tough, man. They got a pass rush there. I mean, the way they're playing right now, I feel like I'd rather play the Giants than them come playoff time or down the street,
Yeah, especially now that they're getting Chase Young back. You're right on the money with that. I think that the Commanders are ascending, and maybe, the Giants we just talked about are kind of descending and falling back to, kind of level earth of what we thought maybe they were going to be. Speaking of the same type of similar team, I think you could say almost the same thing about the Seahawks. The Raiders win a wild one, 40 to 34. Seahawks now fall to 6-5. Derek Carr, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns. Geno, 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, huge day, 33 carries, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the walk-off winner. Devontae Adams, 7 receptions for 74 yards. DK, 11 for 90. Craig, are the Seahawks also like the Giants where, hey, it's starting to come back down to earth? They're not that super hot team that they, was like the first half of the season there.
I'm going to say sort of, but Seattle, I mean, they've got playmakers, man. I mean, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they can make plays, and Kenneth Walker is, a stud. So to me, Pete Carroll's it's more of a system thing here with Pete Carroll. If Pete Carroll can get a defense built there, running the football is more important than the quarterback. And I feel like we're kind of maybe seeing some of that, man. I mean, I don't know that Russ, made those Super Bowl teams with Seattle. He had a ton around him. And Pete Carroll can win football games whenever he can run the football. And I feel like their biggest issue, the score indicates it right now, their biggest issue is just defensively. And, if they could get a defense built there, I feel like Seattle's got weapons, and that's what the Giants are lacking. The Giants, outside of Saquon Barkley, they're just lacking dudes that you can get the ball in their hand and they can make something happen,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think so too. I think the thing that scares me is how good the 49ers are coming on. I think the 49ers will overtake them in that division.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the eye test tells you, right? The 49ers are the better team. And I just mentioned some of the playmakers that the Seahawks have, man, but the 49ers can match every one of them and then add double. I mean,
yeah,
the 49ers,
their defense is better. Yeah.
Their defense is better. Their offense, they've got more playmakers. I mean, for your DK and Tyler Lockett, they've got Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. They've got a way better tight end. I mean, Kenneth Walker's an absolute stud. I think Elijah Mitchell got hurt today, right? But, I mean, still McCaffrey, I don't know, man. 49ers are just, I mean, on paper, just a better roster.
Yeah, the Raiders figuring this thing out. I feel like when they can give Josh Jacobs, who did break the Raiders single game for scrimmage, most yards behind the scrimmage today. I feel like when they get Josh Jacobs going and he's getting like 20 carries, I feel like that's like their formula.
I feel like a broken record, man, because I feel like the Raiders, we'll see them win a game or two, and Josh Jacobs has big games, and we sit here and say, I think the Raiders might have found something as long as they stick to the run, and then they don't, and they lose a couple games, and then they'll have a game like this where, all of a sudden, boom, Josh Jacobs going ape shit again, and then they're winning again. I don't know why they don't just stick with it, because like you said, man, it seems like when Josh Jacobs touching the ball, 25 times, the Raiders are winning football games, or they're at least definitely in these football games. So, but I don't know. I don't want to go as far as saying the Raiders have found anything, man, because I don't think the Raiders are getting very far. Even if they kind of stick to this formula, they went into overtime, man. Josh Jacobs broke it loose, but I mean, that's very well a game they could have lost. The Raiders, we say the Chargers are going to Charger. We say the Lions are going to Lion. The Raiders are right there too, man. The Raiders just find ways to throw games up at the end.
Yeah, speaking of the Chargers, they go into Arizona. They win 25-24. They also go for 2 to win the game. And win it. Justin Herbert, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kyler Murray, only 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Conner, 25 carries, 120 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, 4 receptions, 87 yards, and 1 touchdown. DeAndre Carter led the way, 7 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown. There's more importantly, there's some things coming out of Arizona. I was trying to find out what he said, but pretty much, Kyler Murray said we were effed. Murray from like a standpoint, like he's kind of talking about a culture standpoint or play calling standpoint, like he was pretty much saying we were effed. So there seems to be a riff between him and Cliff Kingsbury. Somebody's got to be gone here, I think, in Arizona, and I think it's going to be Cliff Kingsbury a year after they gave him that huge contract extension.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I mean, it's one or the other, right? We've kind of seen for a couple weeks now this riff with Kyler and Kingsbury, and doesn't seem like it's getting any better. Things don't seem like they're getting fixed. This game was basically, I mean, kind of the two hot seat coaches going against each other, right? There at the end, man, that when the Chargers decided to go for two, I just thought they were going to not get it and lose the game by one. Chargers are going to charger like they always do. And I mean, I figured Staley's seat would have been hot, if they don't get that 2 point conversion and they lose this game to Arizona. Arizona, I think I saw the stat they were 1-5 coming into this game at home. Now they're 1-6 at home. Only team that's worse is the Texans. Texans haven't won a game at home. Arizona's the worst, team at home in football. That's a terrible mark on Cliff Kingsbury as well, right? So I just think since their 7-0 start last year, I mean, the Cardinals have been absolutely one of the worst teams in football.
Yeah, they are. Man, they have D-Hop. I know that he seems to be playing well, but I mean, you look at the sidelines, even like Kingsbury. Do you think like Kyler's mad because they gave Kingsbury an extension before they gave him one? I know he got his own extension later on. Is he mad because he's got to come out and play football instead of play Call of Duty? Like, what is like? I don't understand what's kind of going on there.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Kyler, that new contract now it's a job. He's got, his provisions or whatever the heck he's got in his deal. I don't know what kind of bad blood is going on there. I know Cliff Kingsbury, man, when you look at him on the sidelines, the dude looks like he hasn't slept in about 2 weeks.
The Chargers, that was a must win for the San Diego or LA Chargers. I mean, because they could not afford to take another loss. Now they're back, above 500, I believe, or at 500 at least, to kind of stay in that playoff race. If they lost that one, they might have been cooked.
Yeah, I think with that win, there's still a game behind the Jets for the last wild card spot. So I mean, a game behind still not where you want to be. 2 games behind definitely not where you want to be. So yeah, that was a huge win for them.
Yeah, they're done playing the Chiefs, so I mean they should be able to win some games in their division. Let me pull up their schedule real quick before we get into the last 2 games here. I'm gonna look up the Jets and their schedule. So you said that. Let me look at the playoffs here. Chargers are 6-5. The Jets are 7-4. There's 7 playoff teams. So right now, right behind the Jets are the Patriots at 6-5 and the Chargers at 6-5. The Jets remaining schedule. So they have the Vikings next week. That's a tough game. Then they go to the Bills, who they beat once, but it's not an easy, I don't know if they'll be able to do that in Buffalo. Then they host Detroit. Detroit's playing well. Jacksonville, trying to maybe fight for their own playoff rights. Maybe. Then they got the Seahawks, who are in the playoff hunt, still be fighting, and then they have to go to Miami as well. So their schedule is pretty hard going forward. And then the Chargers, you look at the Chargers. I mean, their schedule, they have no easy slouches either here coming up. They do have the Raiders. Then they have the Dolphins. And then they have the Titans, both those games at home. Then they go to Indy, host the Rams, and then go to Denver. So they're going to need to win, maybe both, if not one of those games against Dolphins or the Titans.
That last 3, I mean, I'm picking them in all 3. The Rams are terrible, missing everybody. Who else did you say? Their last 3, Denver. I'm not picking Denver to beat anybody.
Yeah, Colts, Rams, Broncos.
Yeah, so I mean, those are 3 winnable games, but it's not easy on the way there. I mean, the next 3. I mean, the Raiders.
They should be able to beat the Raiders. They're 2.5 favorite right now.
They should be able to, but we've seen the Raiders beat them. I mean,
yeah. Then you got the Dolphins, and then you got the Titans. That those are going to be 2 tough games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not picking the Chargers to win either one of those.
Agreed. Let's get into the 49ers. Saints, I mean, 49ers pitch out the rare shutout in NFL in this day and age, right? 13-0. Saints fall to 4-8. San Francisco moves to 7-4. Andy Dalton, 204 yards. Jimmy G, 222 yards, 1 touchdown. Elijah Mitchell, 7 carries for 35. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 65 yards. Just going to look at Alvin Kamara, just nowhere to be found. 7 carries for only 13 yards. And let's going to look at Christian McCaffrey, 11 carries for 32 yards. Debo only had 3 receptions. McCaffrey had 4 receptions out of the backfield. Kind of a mundane game for the 49ers after that big explosion on Monday night, but they get the job done, beating up on the Saints 13-0.
Yeah, man, I took the Saints to cover because their defense is good, man, and I thought that they would be able to kind of keep it close enough. But man, we were talking about the Bengals earlier, and I said the Bengals are the team like nobody wants to have to play them. That's the 49ers in the NFC. You know, I mean, Philly, Minnesota, Dallas, we can talk about how good all them teams are, man. 49ers are a team nobody wants to play. And I was driving earlier today, and I heard the stat. They said that, and this was at halftime, they said that was the 6th half of football that the 49ers had held their opponent scoreless, which was pretty impressive. And then they did it again in the second half. So, I mean, 7 halves. And then they said that was the 3rd straight second half that they have not allowed a point. So, I mean, when you've got the amount of playmakers that they have on offense and a defense like that behind them, and I mean, I think Elijah Mitchell got hurt, but it just seems like, I mean, I could put some pads on and go to San Francisco and run the football. It don't matter who they got back there, man. That team can run the football. It seems like always that's just a team nobody wants to play, man. I mean, 49ers are dangerous.
They are, and I think Jimmy is showing that, hey, you give him these weapons that he can get the job done. You look at that game against, Arizona on Monday night. They looked like one of the absolute best teams in the league. And I know it was a short week and short kind of, they had to go to Mexico and then back now, to Santa Clara. But they get the job done. Saints absolutely stink. Speaking of stinking, the defending Super Bowl, I call them the Who, because I don't know who the hell's playing for them because everybody on their team is banged up. But Chiefs cover the 15 points, 26-10. Bryce Perkins, that's who the quarterback of the Rams was, a guy I'd never heard of. 100 yards and 1 touchdown. Patty Mahomes, 320 for a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, 22 carries, 69 yards. I needed 1 more freaking yard to hit a parlay from him, but couldn't get it done. 4 receptions, 57 yards, and a touchdown for Travis Kelce. I mean, there's not much to talk about in this game other than Chiefs still good. Rams absolutely stink and are banged up. If I was the Rams, Craig, I would shut down everybody for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, anybody valuable, right? I mean, we said it before everybody started going down, man. It just seemed like the Rams just weren't in it mentally or their heart. It was just kind of they won the Super Bowl, man, and then they were having the real Super Bowl hangover, and then they just started losing. I mean, Cooper Kupp went down. They're without Matt Stafford. They lost Allen Robinson today again for the season. I mean, I'm trying to think back of the last time that we had, a team win the Super Bowl and then just be this terrible the very next year. And
the only times I can think of, the Elway Les Broncos were pretty bad. Remember when Elway retired? They were pretty bad.
But Elway retired, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like this,
yeah.
the Rams are running it back, but they and then added, Allen Robinson. That they lost Von Miller, but
yeah. Picked up Bobby Wagner. Who else did? I'm trying to think of some teams that. I don't know how bad were the Giants after they had won. Like, I guess they made the playoffs 2 years in a row, probably, right? Like when the.
To be honest, the Giants weren't very good when they did win the Super Bowl. They just turned it on at the right time.
Yeah. That's what you got to do. Jalen Hurts is going to run. This game's 23-34. So the third quarter winds down, the Packers.
Looks like Jordan Love might be getting ready.
Yeah. Probably ready for the rest of the year, Craig.
I I don't know why that makes me smile, but
I know why. We all know why.
hey, shoot, we're playing next week, right? I'd rather play Jordan Love.
Hey, probably so. Let's go ahead and get into it, Craig. Let's go ahead. We'll get into our dogs of the week. Who is your dog of the week?
Dog of the week for me this week, man. I mean, it was easy. It's got to be Josh Jacobs, right? Career high in carries, career high in yards. Broke the Raiders rushing record. 33 carries, 229, another 6 receptions for 74. So he had over 300 total scrimmage yards today, and basically single-handedly won the game against Seattle. Seattle's quality opponent, man. Seattle has been a good team all year. So, I mean, like I said, Josh Jacobs wrote the script for me today. I mean, he had to get the award. So Josh Jacobs is the dog for me.
Yeah, my dog of the week is none other than the guy, Mike White. 22 of 28, 315 yards, not one, not two, but 3 tutters. Jets look like they had an offense, and they put it to your Bears. Everybody was clamoring for Mike White. They got Mike White, and boy, was he white hot. Mike White went from 3rd string to 2nd string to 1st string and throwing 3 tutters against the Bears. Mike White is your dog of the week.
A very deserving, man. I mean, Mike White, you know, like I said, the Bears were banged up, but hats off to the guy. You go from 3rd string to, you know, kind of somewhat winning the locker room over to coming back and winning a game, man. What do the Jets do next week, right? I mean, I guess we'll talk about that come next week's pre-show, but I don't know.
You keep riding Mike White, baby. You keep riding Mike White. That's what you have to do.
Who they play next week? They play somebody good next week.
I just pulled up their schedule and I forgot. So the Jets remaining schedule, the Vikings.
Okay, so I mean, if Mike White goes and beats the Vikings, then you just ride him out, right?
Yeah. Then they got the Bills, the Lions, Jags, Seahawks, Dolphins. Not an easy road.
Vikings, Bills, tough. I mean, it don't matter who's the quarterback, you know?
Yeah, they're tough. They're going to all be tough. They could, I mean, they probably beat the Jaguars. I mean, other than that, the Lions game's going to be tough. They may only win 2 more games the rest of the year.
I know, and the thing is their defense is good, man, and it seemed like they had something going. But I mean, I kind of said it in the group message when they made this switch, man. It's like, to me, when you're in the playoff race, like, this is the type of shit. Like, if you make this switch, that means you're riding Mike White's our guy the rest of the year, right? You can't do this. You can't Mitch Trubisky, Zach Wilson, right? I mean, you can't just give him the old flip flop back and forth. Like, that plane's gonna crash and burn at some point, man. And if that's what the Jets do, I feel like that's probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah. What do you do next year? We kind of been talking about that. You know, what do you do next year? I kind of said you bring in a veteran quarterback, or, you know, what if they get Jimmy G or somebody like that, he's going to be the starter. But do you bring in maybe a veteran guy like a Jacoby Brissett type, an Andy Dalton, somebody said Jameis Winston type, you know, somebody like that?
Can you just trade Zach?
Well, do you just bring a veteran in to kind of compete with him?
I mean, part of it depends on what you do this year, right? If Mike White, let's say Mike White comes out and beats Minnesota next week, so then you ride him again and he loses to Buffalo, but you ride him again and he wins the next week. You just ride him out the rest of the year, like.
Let's say Mike White takes it to the playoffs. He's your starter next year.
Right. So yeah, if you get to the playoffs with Mike White, what are you doing then? You gonna go back to Zach Wilson next offseason?
Can't.
No, he's gone, right? So I mean, he's got to be traded. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like I said, to me it's the beginning of the end for Zach Wilson with the Jets, man. I just feel like the the writing is being written on the wall right now as we speak, and these things just never work out well. I just don't see the marriage rekindling to where it's like, oh, Zach Wilson's the future quarterback of the Jets for the next 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he's the next quarterback for the next 5 years at all anyway. But let's get into our last little segment here, and that's our turd of the day. Who's your big old turd of the week?
I had a few options, man. There was a lot of guys I wanted to go with, but I feel like some of them were just repeat customers, man, and I wanted to go someplace different this week. So I'm going with Marcus Mariota. I know they were on the road. It was a tough loss against a really hot team, but to me, Marcus Mariota, whenever you're the quarterback that's throwing for 15 completions, you can't throw the interception in the end zone. I mean, that's make or break for your team. And whenever you do that, you're going to lose the game. And that's what we saw. Marcus Mariota threw a fourth quarter pick in the end zone, and it was a tipped ball, but it was still on Mariota, man. And so to me, I mean, 174 yards, you're not winning the game for your team out here the way that you play. So your job is to not lose the game, and he did lose the game. So
do you think they go to Desmond Ridder eventually at some point in this season?
honestly, I think if the Bucks weren't a freaking shit show, that they'd already be there. I think if they were 3 games out of a playoff spot right now, they'd probably be making that change. But right now, I just think maybe that's why they're riding with Mariota. To me, I mean, shoot, you got to see Dennis Ritter at some point, right? I mean, unless they just really think this formula is gonna get them somewhere, and Marcus Mariota is gonna take care of the football enough to make it work.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think so too. If Desmond Ridder, if they were out of contention, Ridder would probably get the rest of the way to get him some experience to see if he's going to be the guy going forward. My big old turd goes to the Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned it early. This is their third loss, having a double-digit lead, and this was to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You let Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, who has had up and down type year this year, but he looked really, really good. The reason why he was the number one pick in last year's draft. 3 touchdowns, drove down the field, absolutely killed it, and then they get the 2-point conversion, and you lose the game. You can't lose when you're up by 2 scores, when you're the Baltimore Ravens, a team that's trying to contend to win. It's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, a team that's trying to win your division, a team that's trying to make it far, whether it's the defense's fault, Lamar's fault. I don't really consider it Lamar's fault, but hasn't had the greatest type of games at times. He's going to ask for a lot of money, but they need to fix a lot of different holes in Baltimore. I give it to the Baltimore Ravens. That's the Ravens. You're my big, fat, stinking turd of the week this week due to another double-digit, lead that you gave up.
So last year, I mean, Lamar wasn't there for basically the second half of the season, and they don't make the playoffs. But if they've got him for the entire season this year and don't make the playoffs, what do they do moving forward? I mean, are you going to pay Lamar all the money? Does Harbaugh's seat ever start getting hot, or has he just gained too much immunity there in Baltimore?
I don't know if his seat's getting hot. Lamar's not technically a free agent. They can franchise tag his ass, just like, and do the Dak Prescott type thing. We'll see. Yeah, I think you got to bring him back. Who you gonna go out and get that's better than Lamar?
You're not, right? And I guess franchise tagging is probably what they're going to do, so they can try to put some defense and maybe put some pieces there. But like I said last year, you don't make the playoffs. The excuse was, well, we lost Lamar down the stretch. Well, if you got Lamar all season this year and you don't make the playoffs, then you can't just keep doing the same thing moving forward. You know what I mean? Something's got to change.
Yeah. Same, definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. So we'll see what happens, man. It'll be an interesting story. I think they make the playoffs. I think the Bengals could probably overtake them in that division, but I still like the Ravens to make the playoffs going forward.
I probably do too, just because, I mean, I don't trust the Chargers either. I don't. There's a lot of teams to not trust. There's a lot of stuff to not trust out there, I feel like.
And the Eagles are about to score another touchdown. So on that note, Craig, you got any last and final thoughts on week 12?
I don't, man. Not really. I mean, I guess the Bears tank is on. Just let Justin Fields get healthy and let's make some noise in the draft, I guess.
Yeah, ESPN, call your boy Bodkins, because I told you guys a month ago that the Packers absolutely stink, and they still do. So I'm sure tomorrow there'll be more talk about Aaron this and the Packers that. Well, guess what? I've been saying they stink over a month ago when they played the Bills. So there's that. Aaron's banged up. I think he's done for the season. Looks like Jordan Love time. It's time to see what's going to happen. Jordan Love going forward. Before we get out of here, I got to announce we have another the Let's Talk Sports is doing a giveaway. Again, all you have to do is follow our show, the Bodkin Show, Whiskey Sports Podcast, and Let's Talk Sports. Make sure you subscribe to all three of those and just comment, folks. And every time you comment, you get re-entered. And the person who has left the most comments will win $100, a jersey of their choice, and a LTS shirt and mug. So continue to comment, do all those things, and you can ride off in the sunset. Craig, if you win the giveaway, what jersey are you picking?
Man, I don't know. That would be a tough choice. I was actually just sitting here in my head thinking, man, if I wasn't on the show, I'd be in the comments trying to build up my stats for this jersey. That's a heck of a giveaway. So people should be on top of that. Nowadays, man, as much as guys go back and forth and teams trade guys, I mean, right now, Justin Fields jersey seems like it would be great. But I just always go with the classic guys, man. So I mean, I've got the Peanut Tillmans, I've got the Walter Paytons. I could do a new Brian Urlacher jersey, man. That's probably where I'd go.
So Urlacher, I said the other day, I don't know who the hell I would pick for a Packers jersey. I have an Aaron Rodgers, Bart Starr, Brett Favre. I have the Reggie White jersey. Honestly, at this point in time, Craig, I'm probably give me the Joe Burrow white Bengals jersey, baby. That's it. I'm a man crush. I might sleep in it, and my man crush continues on Joe Burrow. So give me the white Bengals Joe Burrow jersey, baby.
Hey, at least that's a good looking jersey, man.
You know? It is. Can't tell you the things I might do in that jersey with Joe Burrow on. I'm just kidding, folks. Anyway,
Joe Burrow scores, right? So I mean,
yeah,
wear the jersey.
Again, folks, be a friend, tell a friend, share with a friend. We appreciate it. Subscribe, like, share. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. We'll be back Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow night with Buffoon and Bodkins. Me and Tanner will be holding down the fort. And then tomorrow, I'll be back Wednesday again for our Week 13. Already in Week 13 preview show. We're moving right along, folks. For Craig, I'm Bodkins. Again, it's been another great episode of the Bodkins Show. I'm going to hit that outro, baby. We'll catch you tomorrow night. Oh, that's the intro. That's the outro.